And this has been the Congressional District 9 week here. We had Travis Grantham on earlier this week. We also had Vernon Parker on, and now Martin Sepulveda joins us, who's also running for the Republican nomination there for Congress. Martin, it's nice to meet you.
Good morning. Good to meet you as well.
And thank you for bringing in coffee.
Absolutely. I heard you guys like the high-octane stuff first thing in the morning.
Yeah, man, this is it's thick. I like thick. That's good. I like it like a milkshake. You can't get it through the straw.
No food though. Food's a crutch first thing in the morning.
Oh yeah, can't eat. Now you've lived here your whole life. You were born and raised in Arizona, and actually you come from a long line of Arizonans.
Yeah, the first generation actually started south of Tucson, a small town called Tubac, and as I like to say, the good sense to move north. So
Tubac's nice. Come on.
It's very nice now. It's kind of a resort place, but they actually the homestead was at Rural and University, and they were there in the 1870s. So
wow.
in business since then. So large families, you can imagine. But certainly when they moved from south to north, they always had some sort of business. Then and even now, I've got a lot of entrepreneurs in my family.
Yeah, you were a member of the Chandler City Council. Did a couple different terms on there.
2 terms, non-consecutive, as I like to say.
So that's like, it's like Sal DeCiccio in Phoenix City Council. I'm always like, why would you want to go back to that? You decided you wanted more punishment, right?
Well, it's funny. Sal and I met way before we were in office. And it's funny, over the years, he and I have obviously commiserated. But it's like a tour of duty.
Yeah.
You have things that excite you, and you have people that will excite and incite you, and you decide that you've got something to add to the mix. And I think that's why you do it. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, as you can imagine. But at the end of the day, when you serve your community and you go to church, shop, whatever you do, and you run into people that are genuinely concerned, sometimes happy, sometimes not so happy, but you interact with that core group of people, and it's all said and done, you've actually contributed.
Yeah, and you mentioned tour of duty. You know a little bit about that too. You were a Marine, and you're still in the U.S. Navy Reserve.
Right.
You've been into Iraq and Kosovo, and you're a veteran of Desert Storm. And
that's going back a ways.
Yeah.
when I was young.
Yeah.
Young and impressionable. Yeah. The first tour. Actually, when I graduated from ASU, I thought I'd do something really smart and enlist in the Marine Corps. I actually started out in an officer program, but I wrestled at ASU, and I was not physically qualified. I had a couple knee operations. So, long story short, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and a few years later, had the opportunity to leave the Marine Corps and get commissioned in the Navy. So I did. So I was enlisted Marine. I'm now a naval officer. Actually, I was commissioned probably 26, 20. I don't even know. It's been so long ago. But yeah, so my first tour was actually in the Persian Gulf, the first Gulf War, and a lot's changed since then.
And thank you for your service in the past and your continuing service. It means a lot to me. It really does.
Well, I appreciate that.
And one of the reasons it means a lot to me is in 2006 I had a chance to go to Iraq, and I was embedded with the military. I spent some time with the Marines at
where were you at?
Al Assad.
Oh,
out in the western western Iraq. But I was also at Taji with the Army, and and also in the red zone and the green zone in Baghdad and the whole thing. And it was a crazy, crazy time.
I got to know that place real well. I did 3 different tours, combat tours in Iraq, and from the invasion to the time I left in 2009, a lot had really changed. I was with maneuver elements. My job in the Navy is to drop bombs, close air support guy. So primarily I work with the Marine Corps, but certainly the Army does that as well, as does the Air Force.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the luxurious digs the Air Force has. So long story short, I mean, from Baghdad to the Syrian border, we operated, and there's a lot of it's a very diverse area, as you can imagine. But given that span of time, a lot happened, and it's just amazing to see how there's continues to spiral out of control. The democracy that we thought we were going to bring to them, and their parliament, and certainly not like we would recognize, but it's just a shame to see that. I'm not sure much has changed.
Well, let's talk about that, because you want to be a member of Congress. You've obviously already spent some time, serving the public, both in the military, serving your country, and serving the public as a member of the city council in Chandler and whatnot. What your experience in Iraq, how would that color your view as a member of Congress if faced with the opportunity, if you could put it that way, to send others to war.
First and foremost, war, in my opinion, and many others, is spoken in too casual of a term.
Right.
When we go to war, it cannot be a casual conversation. Yeah. There's going to be some disagreement, but I believe, based on our Constitution, we have to have a very public discussion about why we want to go to war. And it's not the president, it's the Congress of the United States that actually declares war. We haven't done that since World War II, by the way. But I think we really need to get back to that very basic precept within our Constitution, because it's an all-in game. And in war, people get killed, people get injured very badly, and those that are injured, they have probably mental injuries as well that we're still dealing with. The highest suicide rate in the United States the demographics are 20 to 30-year-olds. Now, when you further drill down, when you look at how many of those 20 to 30-year-olds have been in the military, it's off the charts.
It's crazy.
There's probably about somewhere between 18 and 22 suicides a month of military members. It's just huge.
So
and let me tell you one thing, too. When I came back from Afghanistan, they put me on the senior watch officer desk. And so basically you keep the situation reports flowing to the command deck. But you also get incidents of troops, military members, in my case, Marines and Navy guys, who got in car accidents and sometimes were killed. And you just wonder, a young kid on his brand new fast motorcycle or vehicle liquored up and going down the road, if that's not a form of suicide. It's not labeled suicide, but it's certainly suicidal. And when death happens, it's just not a good thing. So, I mean, taking a step back, we can't have the casual conversation. We'll just go to war here, there, or somewhere else.
Yeah, and with the War Powers Act, Congress has shirked their responsibility to declare war.
I absolutely believe that. And I don't want to get in fight with our delegation or people I respect very much, but I think we need to get back to that. It's very costly, but over and above the cost of war, the human cost is huge.
Yeah, it really is.
And so I think if we have it at a very public level to discuss why. And then, the funny thing about it's not funny at all. The irony is that no one can really tell you what the definition of win looks like in Afghanistan.
Right.
We really couldn't say that in Iraq, other than we're going to hand over power to the provincial Iraqi governments and now their parliament. Well, okay, the end state should kind of benefit the United States, our blood, our treasure that goes to fight. And if we can't define it in those terms, then it really begs the question, do we really need to go?
Yeah. Well, I think, initially the point was to get the Taliban out of power so that, because they assisted Al-Qaeda.
And we did that in a very short order.
Right, but now...
The problem is we stayed. There's some great, probably unclassified documents and a couple of good books that talk about my favorite, the special operations guys that actually went in there and was with the Northern Alliance. Remember those guys? They routed the Taliban. Problem was, I think, after that victory, after we got the Taliban out,
there was a vacuum.
What next?
Right.
What next? And so to really put these people in place that we didn't really know whether they're nefarious characters or not, that probably wasn't the right thing to do. It's all hindsight right now.
Right.
But we need to have lessons learned. I think the last thing I would say on that is that, somewhere between 1.5 and almost $5 trillion have been spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not saying that money should not have been spent. I'm not saying we shouldn't have gone into Afghanistan or even Iraq, but I like to remind people the Taliban are in Afghanistan, not Iraq. But that's a lot of money. Yeah. And again, not to have a clear end state or a clear-cut definition of what the strategic and tactical objectives are, I don't think that's the right way to move forward.
Yeah, that might drive a guy who went to war college a little nutty.
It's okay. As we say about the guys from the academy, they're the trade school, boat school guys, but they don't know everything.
That's Martin Sepulveda. He's running for Congress. He's our guest here he's running for Congress from the new Congressional District 9. He's our guest here on Sharpe in the Morning. More ahead with him. It's 6:47 now. Well, somebody told me you had a boy. It is 6:54 now on Sharpe in the Morning here on News Talk 550 KFYI. Martin Sepulveda is our guest this morning, running for Congress in Arizona Congressional District 9. Martin, thanks for coming in, and once again, thanks for the coffee. Why are you running? What's your number one issue? Why are you running for Congress?
Well, first and foremost, I think I've got something to add to the mix. I actually live in the district. Most candidates don't, running in this seat. But just importantly, I was elected twice by citizens in the district. in the city of Chandler. I mean, there is at least one other person who has municipal experience. That's great. But I think when you look at comparing Paradise Valley, which is a fine community of 20,000 to Chandler, Arizona, about $250,000, it's night and day. The budgets that we dealt with were huge. Over the last budget I dealt with, it was in excess of $1 billion. It was balanced, cash reserves. We even cut taxes. Looking at what's most important right now, and from day one, our campaign is focused jobs and economy. We've created jobs in Chandler, helped create jobs. I like to be very clear about government doesn't create jobs, the private sector does.
Right.
But you have to understand what their needs are. And we've done that very well in Chandler since really the early 90s. I mean, no one can really refute that. I feel very proud when they make these new announcements, especially of Intel and Chandler, because the first expansion happened in 1996, my first term there. And so to date, it's about $20 billion of capital investment in Chandler by Intel. The jobs that are created is probably 10 to 15,000. It's a big chunk of wealth, not just for Chandler, but the Southeast Valley and the state. So the skill sets that I think we need in D.C., understanding what the government process looks like to balance budgets, to reduce taxes, to engage with the private sector and enable them to create jobs. I mean, that's very relevant right now.
Jobs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so again, being elected twice, 2 non-consecutive terms, I think also gives me a good idea of what people want, what people really need.
And I know you've been out walking neighborhoods. You were talking.
Oh, boy, I tell you, I've never had so much fun.
You're going to take a big nap on Tuesday, right? Right after Tuesday?
Probably not. The next day's a work day, right? Either way.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It's good. We've done a lot. I've been very pleased with where we've come quickly, so we're going to leave it all on the mat.
All right. Martin Sepulveda, thank you for joining us this morning. We will see you Monday after the news at 5 a.m. Barry Young's next.